Loneliness never announces its arrival. It doesn't knock or warn you, it simply sits beside you quietly, pretending to be harmless until one day you realize it has been making decisions for you. And I didn't fall in love because I was brave, or stay because I was hopeful. I stayed because I was tired of being alone. Because loneliness has a way of making survival feel like love. And when he entered my life, it didn't feel dramatic or intense. There were no fireworks or chaos, just something far more dangerous. Comfort. The kind that sneaks in slowly, wraps itself around your quiet nights, and convinces you it's safe. He noticed me when no one else did, or at least that's how it felt. He listened, remembered details, made me feel visible during a time when I felt invisible even to myself. We met during a phase where my days blurred together with the same routine, the same silence, the same nights staring at my phone pretending I didn't care that no one was texting. I told myself I was strong and independent and fine on my own. But loneliness makes fine feel unbearable. So when he looked at me like I mattered, I didn't question it, didn't slow down, didn't protect myself because I needed the feeling too much. He remembered the way I liked my coffee, the song I always skipped halfway through, the story I once mentioned casually and forgot I ever told. And at the time, it felt romantic. But now I understand that attention can be a weapon when used by the wrong person. The first red flag didn't arrive loudly. It arrived gently. He didn't like my friends. Not aggressively. Not openly. Just enough to plant doubt. Saying they didn't really appreciate me or listen to me the way he did and that he just wanted me around people who deserved me, and I believed him because I wanted to. The second red flag came wrapped in concern, asking why I needed to go out so late, telling me to text when I reached, when I left, when I got home, saying he worried about me and it sounded like care and felt like protection. So I ignored the tight feeling in my chest. The third red flag was control disguised as affection. He wanted all of me, my time, my attention, my emotional availability. And if I replied late, he'd go quiet. If I laughed too freely with someone else, his mood would shift. If I chose myself even once, guilt followed. And every time I thought about leaving, loneliness whispered that at least I wasn't alone anymore. And that voice was louder than logic. Slowly, without realizing it, I began to shrink, canceling plans, stopping posts, filtering my words, adjusting my personality because it felt easier to change myself than to be abandoned again. And that's the cruelty of loneliness. It convinces you that anything is better than emptiness, even pain, even control, even losing yourself. There were moments when clarity tried to reach me. Small, sharp moments, the way his smile disappeared when I said no. The way he needed constant reassurance but never gave it back. The way my heart raced with anxiety instead of excitement when my phone buzzed. But every red flag came with an excuse, that he had a difficult past or loved deeply or was afraid of losing me. But the truth was he was afraid of not owning me and I was afraid of being alone again. One night I caught my reflection in the mirror and didn't recognize her because she looked tired, careful, smaller somehow. And that's when it hit me that loneliness didn't lead me to love. It led me to tolerate things I never should have accepted. Because comfort built on fear isn't comfort, it's a cage. Leaving didn't happen suddenly because it never does. People imagine strength as a clean decision, but leaving happens in fragments, in doubts, in quiet realizations that surface late at night. And even after I knew something was wrong, I stayed because awareness doesn't instantly break attachment. I noticed the tension in my chest when his name appeared, the way I rehearsed conversations, the relief I felt when he was busy followed by guilt. Because love isn't supposed to feel like walking on glass, but loneliness taught me to normalize discomfort. He sensed the shift before I said anything, told me I'd been distant, smiled that tight smile that meant he was watching, held me possessively that night as if squeezing harder could pull me back into silence, and I lay awake realizing I felt lonely even while someone's arms were around me, and that scared me more than being alone ever had. The argument started after that, being told I was overthinking, dramatic, changing as if growth was betrayal, and every time I tried to explain it turned into defense, so I stopped explaining and something inside me hardened. And if this story feels familiar, maybe hearing it is the first step to seeing your own truth. The final red flag didn't scream. It whispered. When I made a simple plan without him and he went cold, saying he didn't matter anymore. And for the first time, that sentence didn't trigger guilt, but clarity. Because someone who loves you doesn't punish you for choosing yourself. I didn't argue or defend. I just said I couldn't do it anymore. And he laughed, saying I'd regret it because I always came back. And that's when I realized he wasn't confident. Because I loved him. But because he believed I needed him. And once I did, leaving was messy and quiet and heavy. I cried alone, doubted myself, almost went back. Loneliness returned louder than before, but I didn't run. I sat with it until it stopped feeling like punishment and became space. Space to breathe, to think, to remember who I was before I made excuses for someone else's behavior. Healing didn't look like movies or glow-ups or instant peace. It was quiet and awkward and lonely in a way that forced me to face myself. I checked my phone expecting his name, replayed conversations that would never happen because freedom feels unfamiliar. When control leaves slowly, some nights were hard, not because I missed him, but because I missed not being alone. Because you don't always miss the person. You miss the noise they created so you didn't have to hear your own thoughts. Loneliness tested me again, whispering that maybe I overreacted or it wasn't that bad, or I wouldn't find better. But this time I answered back, reminding myself how small I felt, and how love shouldn't feel like fear or permission or invisible rules. I started doing things alone. Drinking coffee, going out, laughing freely. And slowly I didn't feel lonely all the time. I felt calm. Weeks later I ran into him. Same face, same voice, different feeling. He expected regret or apology, but I offered neither. We spoke briefly like strangers, and when I walked away, I didn't feel broken. I felt proud. Because healing isn't about forgetting someone, it's about remembering yourself. And I learned that red flags don't always look dangerous. Sometimes they look like attention or consistency or someone finally choosing you. But real love doesn't require you to disappear. Loneliness didn't make me weak. It made me human. Ignoring red flags wasn't stupidity. It was survival. But choosing myself, that was strength. So if you're excusing behavior just to avoid being alone, pause. Loneliness passes, but losing yourself takes much longer to recover from. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away even when the silence scares you.